try to pick up some yardage early to open things up to find some passing lanes.
Another player to watch in that Harvard offense is Justice Shelton Mosley, as we'll now take a look at the defense for the Crimson. They're led by their captain, number 35, Luke Hutton. Harvard only has singular captains every year, and the senior from Austin, Texas, headlines that unit.
And again, the main important thing in that unit is to guard against the dual threat quarterback. Always have a spy on him.
And we take a look at that dual threat quarterback, Nick Duncan, junior from St. Louis, and he's got a pretty talented wide receiver core to throw to. You know, really a lot of the offense runs through L.J. Harriet.
Yeah, he's a guy who can line up in a bunch of different spots. Really good player on the field for Brown offense that, again, was not on the field for that long last week. That's a big thing for Brown today. Time of possession, they have to have more to keep their defense off the field. Defense that played well, but was out there for a long time.
Yeah, and the player to watch on the defensive side for the Bears is number 49, Richard Dewey Jarvis, who along with Isaiah Tompkins is one of the captains on the Bears. Jarvis had 4 sacks last week. He was named the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Week.
He had 4. Brown, as a team, had 7 sacks last week. And with a freshman quarterback against a team with a good pass rush, that's always a little bit of a concern and something that we'll have to keep our eye on.
I'd like to defer the choice for the second half.
Harvard wins the opening coin toss and will defer, so Brown will choose to receive. And we will see the Brown Bears offense come right out. You mentioned Brown's offense needed to get on the field a little bit more. That defense played well last week, but they just spent so much time. They actually did a great job on third down. Bryant was only 4 of 21 on third down against the Bears, but Bryant was 6 of 9 on fourth down. They were converting fourth downs in the fourth quarter and really kept that Brown defense out there on a hot day.
And it's another day that kind of resembles that here today. Hot temperatures, feels a lot more like summer than it does fall.
So what are these two teams playing for? Well, as we mentioned, Harvard trying to avoid an 0-2 record. They have not been 0-2 since 1998, and they haven't lost 4 in a row since the 99-2000 seasons. They lost their last 2 last season, and they lost their first game in Week 1 this year. They're also trying to extend that home opener winning streak to 17. Meanwhile, Brown hoping for the first time in 6 years to be 2-0 after this game, and also end that 6-game losing streak to the Crimson. They haven't won in this ancient building since back in 1998.
Early part of this game is going to tell us a lot, especially with the freshman quarterback, how Brown chooses to play him defensively. You know, we mentioned the passing yards. Some of that has to do with how long Brown was on the field defensively last week, just in terms of time of possession. It's going to add up. But their pass rush gives them an opportunity to really get pressure on the quarterback. But it's going to be Brown who starts with the football first.
You mentioned it in the open, too, but both of these teams dealing with those first week jitters. Remember, everybody else in the FCS got off to a start 2 weeks earlier. The Ivy League doesn't start until everybody else in FCS is on week 3, and some of that showed in the form of penalties. Both of these teams committed 10 penalties. Brown, 117 yards, and that's an area where both squads are going to want to clean things up. Ready to go, and an end-over-end kick coming from Harvard's Kenny Smart. It will be returned and immediately swarmed down inside the 5-yard line with Scott Boylan. He returned a kickoff for a touchdown last week, but gets only a couple of yards here to start off this one.
It's just great kick coverage by Harvard to start the game. Watch how quickly they collapse. Boylan looking for a lane. There's nobody home to block, and 2 Crimson jerseys are in on the stop.
Looked like Peter Graves was the first one to get there, and tough field position for Brown to start this game. That's what Harvard had to deal with a lot last week against the University of Rhode Island. They started oftentimes deep in their own territory. So here is Nick Duncan. Start out in the shotgun. Duncan will give it to L.J. Harriet, and he'll go just a couple of yards on the first play from scrimmage. Harriet, a guy who'll line up all over the place. Tackle made by Stone Hart, the senior defensive tackle.
It was a good job by Hart getting off his block. Watch right here as he finds his way away from his block to end up making the hit right there and end up with that first tackle.
Harriet, guy who'll line up not only at running back but wide receiver, and at times he'll take some snaps at quarterback. Duncan to throw this time. And incomplete. Luke Hutton was there on the underthrown pass. Looked like a timing play that just wasn't quite there, and Harvard forcing Brown into an early 3rd and long.
It's a great read, though, by the Harvard captain, who undercut that out route and nearly had 6 points.
So 3rd down and close to 6 for Duncan and the Bears offense. The give to Harriet, stacked up at the line and loses probably 2-3 yards. So a good stop for Harvard on the first drive of the game. They force a punt.
Now look how many crimson jerseys are in on this play. I mean, there is just nowhere to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 are all right there defensively for Harvard to make that stop. Nothing doing for Brown for a series.
Back to punt is Ryan Kopech, and he'll angle this one straight away to Justice Shelton Mosley. Skitters around midfield, finds a little seam, and makes it up to the 46-yard line. Shelton Mosley, return of about 7 yards, and good field position early here for the Crimson.
Well, Harvard has to take advantage here early on with the young quarterback, gets himself in good field position to start. That's a big lift for this Harvard offense.
Last week it was Joe Viviano, the senior, the 5th year, getting the start at quarterback. This week it's Jake Smith, freshman from Ithaca, Michigan. Had a terrific high school career in mid-Michigan. He set the state record for total touchdowns in a season with 59 combined scores through the air and on the ground. Just like Duncan, he is a dual-threat quarterback. And they'll go to the air. First play, it's tipped and nearly intercepted. Getting a piece of it was the linebacker Isaiah Tompkins. And very nearly a turnover on the first play of the game for the Crimson.
Well, it's a timing route on a hook, but there are so many white jerseys in this area. It's amazing that ball didn't get turned over. A lot of Brown, who ended up dropping, only rushed forward, dropped most of their defense there, and allowed for good coverage.
Smith has got Charlie Booker in his backfield. 2 wide receivers spread out to each side. The give to Booker goes right side, and there's the Brown defense swarming. Again, it was Tompkins leading the charge, along with Richard Dewey Jarvis. A loss of 3 yards on the play.
Watch the read here by 37. He's going to come in your screen. He sees it all the way, cutting to that side of the line, and is immediately there to help out on the tackle.
The 2 captains, Tompkins and Jarvis, both had enormous Week 1 games. 3rd down and 13 for the Crimson. Smith, free blitzer over on the left side. It's Adam Scott. He'll squirm his way inside the 40 and just shy of the first down. This will leave an interesting decision as Tompkins was again there to make the play. 4th and short here inside the 40, and the Harvard offense will stay out there.
Well, Brown brought pressure, and it's a good read by Smith, who saw the pressure coming into his face and just got rid of it. But you figure early here with the young quarterback, you play field position a little bit. Harvard's so good defensively on that first possession, and they will indeed punt.
Yeah, late decision to pull the offense off the field, and Zach Schmid will go back there to punt. Back to return. Looks like Scott Boylan. Boylan will shift. He gets blasted, and that will draw flags as Harvard will down it at the 1-yard line. But Boylan was just tattooed at the 10-yard line. He never made the signal for a fair catch, but you can't just run into him. It's like Micah Hughes was the first one to make contact, and he's saying he didn't signal for a fair catch, and I think that's what the discussion is.
Well, the ball was over the head of Boylan. He was going to let this go in the end zone, and that's why Hughes, who's got his head up looking for the ball, that's where he runs into the target, and we'll get this sorted out by our officials.
There is no foul for kick catching interference. The ball will be placed at the 20-yard line, first down.
No foul.
So what looked like a penalty initially, we saw 3 flags pop out, ends up being not a penalty. You see, there was no signal for a fair catch when Hughes made contact, and Harvard able to down this one at the 1-yard line.
And it's a good job after the fact by the rest of the Harvard returners, and Brown sees a replay of that, trying to figure out how that's not a penalty with their player going down and not having the ability to try to catch the ball. But as you said, no fair catch.
Well, now they'll say it was a touchback. So they'll claim that Harvard had a player in the end zone. And so the Bears will actually take it out at the 20. So some confusion from the referees on the field. Bears will start their second drive of the day here. Just over 2.5 minutes in.
Well, that first Brown possession, a lot of it had to do with backs against the end zone. See what they can do here on this second possession and see if they can get their running game with the quarterback going a little bit.
Duncan has Harriet once again in the backfield. Brown was 3 and out on his first possession. They fake the give to Harriet. Under pressure, and Duncan goes down. A Harvard sack back at the 10-yard line. Scott Evans, the right end from Pittsburgh, was there to make the play as Duncan just didn't have a target to throw to in time.
Get off his block right there, saw the lane, and immediately just took a right turn around his blocker to get to the quarterback. Get a good look at it here, just moved right around his blocker and got there for the sack.
Scott Garrison also joined in to make sure Duncan didn't get free, so a good start for the Harvard defense. Handoff goes to Boyland around the right side, and he'll only make it to the 12. They want to incorporate Scott Boyland's speed. He ran a 4.440 and returned a kickoff 95 yards for a touchdown last year, so the Bears are trying to get him involved with the ball in his hands.
This is a good job by Joey Goodman right there. He forces the block so far back that Goodman never really able to turn upfield and go north-south, had to keep going east-west, and Boylan could never really get that speed going around the corner.
Bears need to get to the 30. It's 3rd and 18. Duncan over the middle. It's caught by Jalen Blandberg. Ball squirts out, and they will say that it came out after the tackle. Tanner Lee there to jump on it. Brown will be short of the first down, and they'll have to punt.
It's a good job by Duncan going through his progressions, comes back to the middle, and it's a quick angle there, but it did look like the ball carrier was down. Give another look. And yeah, I think see that right arm where the ball was. When he hit the ground, that's what forced the ball out.
Flag pops out. False start coming against the Bears, and Harvard on that last replay, they could make it argue that ball was
offense number 49.
And Brown,
the 5-yard penalty remains 4th down.
The officials did rule the catch.
I wonder if Brown going quickly a little bit because of that very notion was part of the reason they end up jumping onside.
They push back. Ball will be snapped from the 24-yard line. Ryan Kopech, the junior from Georgia, back to punt for the second time today. Justice Shelton Mosley, his second return across the 50. Flag pops out, and he goes out of bounds at the 47-yard line. Crimson will wait on the penalty call.
Well, it's a low kick. It's not a lot of hang time on the kick.
During the return,
that allows a little bit of room, but
receiving team number 34, the 10-yard penalty, first down.
I believe that was Hughes again, who picks up his, didn't get called for the penalty, even though the flag came out at the other end. Here, he picks up the holding ball.
It'll still be good field position. We'll try and get a look there. You can see they just were able to turn away Evan Jackson. Harvard will still have good field position, taking over the 38-yard line, and a second opportunity here for Jake Smith, who after his high school career at Ithaca High School played a prep year in New England at Phillips Exeter Academy in New Hampshire. Get him ready to take on the athletic and academic workload at Harvard.
Would expect Booker to get more involved here, second drive. Never really got a touch in drive number 1. You want to avoid 3rd and long with a young quarterback.
They do give it to Booker up the middle. He's able to break free from a tackle across the 45 to the 49 of Brown. Looked like nothing initially. Terrell Smith finally able to bring down Booker. This was one of the concerns, bringing down Charlie Booker for that Brown coaching staff.
Well, you have to be able to wrap up higher on the body to make that tackle. The Brown tackler went low, and you're never going to be able to get Booker down just by the shoe tops. And he picks up 11 out of it.
Shelton Mosley in motion down into the slot. They fake it to Booker. This time it's Smith. He'll keep it. Stumbles over himself for a couple.
he probably had more room on the outside than he thought he did, and that's part of getting used to playing at this level as a freshman quarterback. Made a really good read to find the open space, but then looked like he almost hesitated, and that's what forced the stumble.
2nd and 8 for Harvard. Really pack it in tightly. Something that Crimson like to do is keep the same personnel out there, but change the look. It's a staple of this Harvard offense. Under pressure and a drop. Jake Barron, the H-back, unable to hold on over the middle, had some room to run with it.
A lot of pressure from Brown, who's thrown a couple of different blitz packages Harvard's way. That time coming again. That was pressure that Smith could see coming out of, and he spun and tried to get rid of the ball. Had an open lane, but couldn't be hauled in.
Another 3rd and long here for the Crimson. Weren't able to convert on their first drive. Smith goes deep. Caught by Scott, and he's out of bounds deep into Brown territory.
Well, this is a great job by the freshman quarterback. Watch as he steps up in the pocket and gives himself space. Look what he's going to make a read here. Tons of room right here. He's going to step up, make a strong throw on the money, and he lofts it in there perfectly. That's a great throw from the freshman.
Adam Scott, the 3rd leading receiver a year ago for the Crimson, gets his first catch of the day. This give to Booker again, up the middle and in! Touchdown, Harvard! 16 yards on the handoff. And Charlie Booker has his first touchdown of the season.
I want you to watch the blocking on this play. Look at the lane that opens up after the big pass play. There is nobody there, and Booker just had to beat one guy to get into the end zone. Great job on the offensive line, and Booker sees that hole, and he punches it in. And once you have that passing game established, it opens up so much in the running game, and it's a great job of the Harvard offense to get on the board early.
The key play, that long conversion to Scott, the 31-yard pass play.
That leaves an open Harvard man to make the tackle, and it's a good one-on-one tackle by Luke Hutton.
Hutton has been involved in a few plays already, and false start coming. You saw Anton Casey was off to the races a full second before the ball was snapped.
False start.
Again, penalties
Offense,
were an area of
77.
concern for both teams, hoping to
5-yard
clean things
penalty.
up here in the second
Second
week of
down.
the season. So 2nd down and 16 here for the Bears. Nobody in the backfield with Duncan. Fake handoff. Throws over Emerson Logie. Tight end who is streaking up the field. A couple of passes early on here have been off from Duncan. He only completed 52% of his throws last week and was very effective on the ground, 73 yards, combined for 3 touchdowns. But already he's been, I think, carried a little bit into some tough throws.
Yeah, you know, last week on play action was Rhode Island's long touchdown, 55 yards. That time Harvard did a better job not biting on the fake.
Send Harry in motion to the left. It's a design draw here for Duncan, and he won't get anywhere. Tim Hale, the senior safety, was first to greet him. And the Bears are forced to the punt for the 3rd straight possession.
Well, this is what we need by quarterback spy. Watch as Hale, who's going to come into your screen. He reads that play all the way, and he's going right to the quarterback. Lane was open, but it's a good read, and that's why you have your spy in the quarterback, and he makes the play to force another punt.
Ryan Kopech back to punt again. Shelton Mosley let this ball bounce and ends up being a very effective punt down to the 9-yard line. Didn't look like a whole lot off the foot, but Shelton Mosley made the decision not to go after it. That low kick can be tough to see and feel. So Harvard will take over, leading 7-0 here at Harvard Stadium. At Harvard Stadium, and here's what's coming up on the Ivy League Network. Football across the Ivy League and other sports as well. A number of ways you can tune into the Ivy League Network. Glad you found us here on the Ivy League Network and on Nesson. Harvard takes over back at its 9-yard line. Smith is able to roll out of one tackle, but not out of another. A loss of 4 yards in the first play.
Well, this is the first time that Smith didn't see the pressure. It's backside pressure for Brown, and it actually beat 2 Crimson offensive linemen who are on that side trying to protect. But that if you can get the pressure around that left tackle, that's an important spot to try to challenge the young quarterback.
So Harvard faces a 2nd and 14 back at its own 5-yard line. That punt really changed the field position game. Duncan the give. It comes to Shamklin, and he won't go anywhere. He loses a yard. Crimson move in the wrong direction.
Well, this is already the 3rd time that Harvard's had a 3rd and long situation. Now, one time it was completed on a really good pass from Smith, but Harvard has forced itself into some 3rd and long so far in this game. Brown's done a good job with the pressure. And here you just see there's nothing there up the middle as Brown does a good job. They dropped a bunch, pretty good run coverage, and now Smith is going to have to throw from his own end zone.
3rd down and 15. Crimson need to make it up to the 19 for a 1st down. And they'll go conservative here with a handoff coming. Levance Northington loses another yard, and the Crimson will be back to the back of the end zone to punt it away.
Yeah, sometimes you do go conservative when you have a freshman quarterback in there. That was the call there for Harvard. That's a good job by this Brown defense, which is mixing in a couple of different packages. Again, the numbers don't necessarily bear it out because Brown was on the field for so long last time out, but they have really played well on the defensive side of the ball last week, and a good start so far today.
Not much room for Zach Schmid to work with. Boyland is standing at the 44-yard line of the Crimson, but a good kick will force him back into his own side of the field. Boyland across the 50 down to the 45-yard line, where he is shoved out of bounds by Hutton. And Brown will have great field position here for its 3rd drive of the game.
It's a good job in kick coverage there for Harvard. A couple of guys getting down the field, and that's a spot where it's so difficult to get enough hang time to get your kick coverage down there. But a good job. And now see what Brown can do on offense. Again, sustaining drives. We talked about that a little bit so far through the course of the show. Brown has got to find a way to move the ball on offense a little bit and leave its defense off the field and give them a breather.
Now Duncan has both Boyland and Harriet in the backfield. Goes to the right side, catch is made, and across the 40-yard line with a pickup of close to 5 yards goes Brown's Jacob Prawl, sophomore from Tip City, Ohio. Caught 3 balls last week.
This was a good block by Phil Lynch at a Boston College high school. Watch as he pulls out here, and he's going to make the seal block to allow a couple of extra yards there. Good job by Harvard coming after.
Go to the air again, and just behind Anton Casey. On 2nd down, he had Casey open over the middle, but off target again here from Nick Duncan, who's had a few of those passes just off the mark.
And boy, there was some room to run after the fact there, but Duncan a little quick on his throw. It's a little bit behind his receiver, and now it sets up a 3rd down just like that for Brown.
Knows the football just inside the 40-yard line. Duncan over the middle. Casey again can't hold on. Great coverage by Tanner Lee. Looked like he maybe arrived a little bit early, but there was no call. There is an injured Brown player on the field. Jalen Blandberg will be attended to.
Well, let's see about this coverage here. It looked pretty good if it's called clean. Maybe a hair early, but a good defensive play.
Well, with an injury on the field, we'll step aside with Harvard leading 7-0 and Brown getting ready to punt.
There's a book called A Dictionary of Angels. No one has opened it for 50 years. I know, because when I did, the covers creaked, the pages crumbled. There, I discovered the angels were once as plentiful as species of flies. The sky at dusk used to be thick with them. You had to wave both arms just to keep them away. Now the sun is shining through the tall windows. The library is a quiet place. Angels and gods huddle in the dark corners. The great Pacific lies on the summer shelf Miss Jones passes every day. She's very tall, so she keeps her head tipped as I hear nothing. But she does.
Jalen Blandberg was able to walk off the field on his own power as we welcome you back to Harvard Stadium. Brown getting set to punt here on 4th down. Kopech will send this one. Fair catch signal and catch made by Justice Shelton Mosley, and another deep field for Harvard to start in back at the 7-yard line. So we talked about the preseason expectations for these two teams, Eric. Harvard picked in a rare tie atop the Ivy League with Princeton. Brown was picked 6th, but did receive a first-place vote, and the Bears, a team that I think could sneak up on some people this season.
Yeah, and I think that's their thought process as well. They feel like they're better than the 6th spot, and for Harvard, and that's one of the things that Tim Murphy has said, that he's not sure they should be at that mark in terms of the first-place spot in the Ivy League. Have a lot of work to do for this young team, but they still get the credit from how well this program has done over the last however many years.
Crimson look to reestablish some momentum on offense. The give to Booker, and he'll go the wide side of the field, pulled down at about the 7-yard line. Michael Hoyt, sophomore defensive lineman from Ohio, is right there with him, stride for stride, and all of a sudden the Brown defensive line, which the Bears saw as one of the big strengths of their defense, has started to make some noise.
It's just great pursuit following Booker all the way through that line. Nowhere for him to go, and we've seen this early. First down yardage, it's an important note here for Harvard. They have not been able to get a whole lot on first down. It sets up 2nd, 3rd down and long, makes it tough on the freshman quarterback.
High snap. Duncan has to step up in the pocket. Jake Smith is brought down at the 4-yard line, a loss of 3 more yards. And the Crimson keep going in that wrong direction here. Their last 2 drives, the snap really threw off the timing of this.
Well, it's a great job to get something rather than have that ball go into the end zone by Smith. Now all of a sudden you set up 3rd and long, and we'll see if Brown brings the heat here with Harvard's back against the end zone.
The last time the Crimson were in a spot like this, they went with a conservative play call on a handoff. See if they do the same thing. They've got Booker back there once again with the freshman Smith. To the outside, Adam Scott on the near side. Justice Shelton Mosley at the top of your screen. Flag is down, and in the end zone, down goes Jake Smith. For what should be a safety, will wait on the word of the penalty. It was Dewey Jarvis there on the takedown.
Illegal formation, offense, 5 men in the backfield. That penalty declined, the result of the play.
So a formation
safety.
Penalty against the Crimson. The safety will stand, and Brown gets on the scoreboard. Richard Dewey Jarvis, 4 sacks last week, continuing his great start to the season.
That's who we're looking at here. Watch as he just busts off his block, takes his man, and ends up driving to the quarterback. Brown has done such a good job on its pursuit from its defensive line, especially after that Harvard scoring drive, just blowing through the block to get to the ball carrier. We've seen that a few times. Brown has really stepped up on defense, and a lot of it has to do with field position. Back-to-back possessions for Harvard. They start inside the 10, move backwards on the first couple of drives, sets up 3rd down and long, and on 3rd down and long, this Brown defense can throw so many different looks at you. A couple of conservative calls, and here it leads to 2 points.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Ryan Kopech, the punter, and the special teams unit on that punt coverage unit gets a lot of credit for Harvard starting where it did, and then Crimson were not able to do anything with the poor field position.
And this now a similar story to last game for Brown. The defense has played really well. Now it's on the offense to try to build out some time of possession here. Once again, it's been mostly the Brown defense on the field in the game. See what the Brown offense can do now with points on the board.
Boylan and Whitney are back to receive the free kick. will be kicked off from the tee here. Kenny Smart will be the one to strike it back at his 20-yard line. So Brown expects to get good field position here. Boylan will be the one to take this back at his 18-yard line. Muffs it initially, but it bounces right back to him across to the 30, and a good clean takedown by Harvard's Max Jones, freshman.
Jones jumped off his block to make the tackle, and Boylan, we've seen a little bit of good and a little bit of the young freshman, and that's what you get the case right here. Looking up before he had the ball, ends up making some decent yardage out of it. Still fairly good field position for Brown as they get started, but it's about the offense finding something here with Nick Duncan, whose throws have been a little off the mark just so far in the early going.
So Duncan will look to get in rhythm here. He's just 3 of 7 for 21 yards. Fakes the handoff. Duncan looking downfield, throwing deep and incomplete, almost intercepted. Wesley Oxbury had the ball go through his hands, intended for Dimitri Jackson.
Well, it's a pretty good play design as he's got a lot of time here in the pocket just trying to find his lane, but he just overshot his man here. Too strong on the throw. We've seen that a few times for Duncan so far.
Well, Rhode Island last week was able to take advantage of the Crimson on a couple of long plays. It was a bit of a leaky secondary a week ago. This give to Harriet up the right side across the 30, and he'll churn his legs to the 34, picks up close to 5.
Brown playing backwards a little bit, though. You see the shot on first down, then a decent sweep on the run here on second down, sets up third and manageable for Brown offense. This is big here in terms of third down, trying to stay on the field for this Brown offense. Got some momentum off the safety, now trying to continue on with the drive.
3rd and 5. Harriet back there with Duncan. 3 wide receivers to the near side. Throw over the middle, it's picked off. Tanner Lee's got it, and he's got room to go to the end zone. Touchdown, Crimson.
Well, Telliget wrapping the throw a little bit here for Duncan, and it's a great read to get this interception. Watch where the quarterback's eyes are all the way staring down his receiver. You can undercut the route, and then it's just a walk into the house. Harvard takes advantage, and Brown cannot capitalize. Watches his head never moves away from his target, staring down his receiver, and a great job on the interception to get Harvard back on the board. Tanner Lee with a big play.
He led Harvard in interceptions last year with 4. He picks off his first pass of the season here. And after the safety, the Harvard defense steps up in a big way. Moves on top 14-2. Tanner Lee, a senior from Spanish Fort, Alabama. He was 3rd in the Ivy League in interceptions last year. And that's exactly what the Crimson needed, a big play from their defense, and the offense was struggling. Again,
watch the quarterback's eyes. That's the most important part of that play. If you're a defender, if you can learn to read the quarterback's eyes, that's when you can become a really good player. That's exactly what happened there for Lee, and then no one on that side of the field for Brown. And again, it's about the offense finding a way to convert here. It's another 3rd down that Brown can't capitalize on, and it leads to Harvard points in a big way.
Harvard was able to recover a fumble last week, but did not have any interceptions. Get their first pick of the season. And for Brown, that's a tough way to build off some momentum for that defense. You find yourself now down in a 12-point hole. Harvard's got to be feeling a lot of confidence here. Duncan will have to go back out there and shake it off. Smart once again on the kickoff. Boylan and Whitney back to receive once again. Scott Boylan in his end zone. This time will take a knee.
A couple of times he's tried to take it out. Once it worked, but once it very much didn't. And I think that's the smart play, just dropping to a knee and letting this Brown offense set up.
Well, he's been described by his coaches as fearless, and that can be good and bad in a couple of different ways. And as you said, we've seen a bit of both here in the early part of this game. Take a look at what Brown has upcoming. Moving forward, they'll have big rivalry game out of conference team that Harvard just lost to Rhode Island next weekend. And a little bit later on this season, you see that Dartmouth game. That will be back here in Boston. They'll play that game Friday night at Fenway Park, a game that, other than the Harvard game, the Brown faithful have been looking forward to maybe more than any other contest. First play and another missed throw, looked like intended for Jacob Prawl on the right side. And Duncan, looking to string something together, has had a hard time.
Well, he had to hesitate there because the Harvard line jumped with their hands up in the air, and that hesitation forced his throw to come off his back foot rather than stepping into the throw, and that's why it tails off to the right.
2nd and 10 from the 20. Handoff comes to Harriet. Up the left side, not much there, and he's fenced out of bounds. Tim Hale did a great job preventing space for Harriet. And also on that play, Toby Ezeokoli.
Well, because he's got help behind, Hale can run this pursuit to the outside because he has the help coming from behind and just force that play to go to the sideline.
A penalty called on Harvard on that play will give a first down here to Brown, so a big break. Things were not looking up for the Bears, but they'll move up 15 yards, get a fresh set of downs, taking over here at the 36. This time the give comes to Harriet, met at the line of scrimmage and doesn't get much. Brown has not had much success with that run game up the middle, and you can see that's why they've tried to go to the perimeter more often.
Yeah, really been a story both sides here. First down yardage. Neither team has really done a lot on first down, and that has prevented any kind of big drive apart from the one Harvard drive, which picked up on a 3rd down conversion. These two teams have combined 1 for 9 on 3rd down in the game.
By the way, that penalty was on Toby Ezeokoli. It was a personal foul penalty. As the ball pops out here at the end of the play, but they're saying that Prawl was down on the play, and it will not be a fumble. It'll pick up the lead to 3rd and about 5.
Made that decision right away. The referee immediately on top of it. It looked like the right call. We'll get another look. Looking here, 19 on the outside. That's who makes this catch, and then forced out, and yeah, it looked like his hand hitting the ground. It was close. I think his hand hit the ground, and that's what forced the ball up.
3 wide receivers on the left side. Harriet with the give. Escapes one tackle, but runs into another, and then out of bounds. Harvard forces another punt here. No penalty on this 3rd down.
Well, this is about getting north-south. Brown has done a good job getting outside, but they have not been able to turn these plays inside and get north-south. There's just nowhere to go as Harvard does a good job, and that play stretches to the sideline rather than turning upfield, and that is now 0 for 6 for Brown on 3rd down.
Ryan Kopech has had a couple of terrific punts, changing field position. We'll try and do the same here. Twisting kick headed for Shelton Mosley, and he'll make the fair catch back at the 18-yard line. 12 seconds to go here in the opening quarter. Crimson with a touchdown run from Charlie Booker, and then an interception return for a touchdown by Tanner Lee. Dividing the points here for the Crimson. Try and settle in their quarterback. Jake Smith had his best drive on that touchdown drive, the 2nd drive of the game, but has not been given much to work with. It's been backed up his last 2 times in football.
Well, that's the 14's kind of a misleading number today. Harvard's had one really strong drive, but then it was about the defensive play that led to the touchdown off the safety. Harvard has struggled on these last 2 possessions, looking for more on first down. That's an important next step.
Booker back there with Smith. He'll pass on first down and go to the outside to Jack Stansel, who bursts free. He's got a first down across the 30 to the 33-yard line.
Booker ends up being an extra blocker on this play, and it gives Smith a lot of time from the pocket to survey the field. Watch the time he has. There's nobody able to get to him. Got plenty of time to make that throw to end the first quarter.
So a good drive starter, and it takes us to the end of the first quarter. Harvard, a good first 15 minutes here from Harvard Stadium. The Crimson lead at 14-2.